The complete works of Swami Vivekananda, address by Swami Vivekananda to the residents of Madras in 1897. Man proposes and God disposes. It was proposed that the address and the reply should be carried in the English fashion. But here God disposes. I am speaking to a scattered audience from a chariot in the Gita fashion. Thankful we are, therefore, that it should have happened so. It gives a zest to the speech and strength to what I am going to tell you. I do not know whether my voice will reach you at all, but I will try my best. I never before had the opportunity of addressing a large open air meeting. The wonderful kindness, the fervent and enthusiastic joy with which I have been received from Colombo to Madras and seem likely to be received all over India have passed even my most sanguine expectations. But that only makes me glad, for it proves the assertion which I have made again and again in the past that each nation has one ideal as its vitality, as each nation has one particular group which is to become its own, so religion is the peculiarity of the growth of the Indian mind. In the other parts of the world, religion is one of the many considerations. In fact, it is a minor occupation. In England, for instance, religion is part of the national policy. The English church belongs to the ruling class, and as such, whether they believe it or not, they all support it, thinking that it is their church. Every gentleman and every lady is expected to belong to that church. It is a sign of gentility. So with other countries, there is a great national power. Either it is represented by politics or it is represented by some intellectual pursuits. Either it is represented by militarism or by commercialism. There are the heart of the nation beats, and religion is one of the many secondary ornamental things which that nation possesses. Here in India, it is religion that forms the very core of the national heart. It is the backbone, the bedrock, the foundation upon which the national edifice has been built. Politics, power, and even intellect form a secondary consideration here. Religion, therefore, is the one consideration in India. I've been told 100 times of the want of information there is among the masses of Indian people. And that is true. Landing in Colombo, I found not one of them had heard of the political upheavals going on in Europe, the changes, the downfall of the ministries, and so forth. Not one of them had heard of what is meant by socialism and anarchism, and of this and that change in the political atmosphere of Europe. But that there was a sannyasi from India sent over to the Parliament of Religions, and that he had achieved some sort of success had become known to every man, woman, and child in Ceylon. It proves that there is no lack of information, nor lack of desire for information, where it is the character that suits them, where it falls in line with the necessities of their life. Politics and all these things never formed the necessity of Indian life, but religion and spirituality have been the one condition upon which it lived and thrived and has got to live in the future. Two great problems are being decided by the nations of the world. India has taken up one side, and the rest of the world has taken the other side. And the problem is this: who is to survive? What makes one nation survive and the others die? Should love survive or hatred? Should enjoyment survive or renunciation? Should matter survive or the spirit in the struggle of life? We think as our ancestors did away way back in the prehistoric ages. Wherever tradition cannot pierce the gloom of that past, there our glorious ancestors have taken up their side of the problem and have thrown the challenge to the world. Our solution is renunciation, giving up, fearlessness, and love. These are the fittest to survive. Giving up the senses makes a nation survive. As a proof of this, here is history today telling us of the mushroom nations rising and falling almost every century, starting up from nothingness, making vicious play for a few days, and then melting away. This big, gigantic race, which had to grapple with some of the greatest problems of misfortunes, dangers, and vicissitudes such as never fell upon the head of any other nation of the world, survives just because it has taken the side of renunciation. For without renunciation, how can there be religion? Europe is trying to solve the other side of the problem as to how much a man can have, how much more power a man can possess by hook or by crook, by some means or the other. Competition, cruel, cold, and heartless, is the law of Europe. Our law is caste, the breaking of competition, checking its forces, mitigating its cruelties, smoothing the passage of the human soul through this misery of life. At this stage, the crowd became so unmanageable that the Swami could not make himself heard. He therefore ended his address with the following words: Friends, I am very much pleased with your enthusiasm. It is really marvelous. Do not think that I am displeased with you at all. I am, on the other hand, intensely pleased at the show of enthusiasm. That is what is required. Tremendous enthusiasm. Only make it permanent. Keep it up. Let not the fire die out. We want to work out great things in India. For that I require your help. Such enthusiasm is necessary. It is impossible to hold this meeting any longer. I thank you very much for your kindness and enthusiastic welcome. In calm moments, we shall have better thoughts and ideas to exchange. Now, for the time, my friends, goodbye. It is impossible to address you on all sides, therefore, you must content yourselves this evening with merely seeing me. I will reserve my speech for some other occasion. I thank you very much for your warm and enthusiastic welcome.